A. Watchmen is one of three titles that elevated the comic book form to the realm of literature. Perhaps even beyond The Dark Knight Returns or Sandman, Watchmen is heralded as the true masterpiece of the genre. While the others may be revered for their tone, creativity, or characters, Alan Moore and Dave Gibbons' Watchmen is especially heralded for its intricate and cohesive structure. Entire college courses are focused on this comic, and every bit of academic analysis and interpretive lens has already been applied to it. There are annotated editions and comprehensive studies well beyond what I can offer, but I know a good upgrade when I see it, and I'm going to focus on that aspect of Watchmen in this video. This comic series has been released in every format imaginable, and I'm going to look at 4 of the most common and determine how each functions as an upgrade from the previous version. So we'll start by taking a look at the floppies, the original issues. Then we'll move on to take a look at the trade paperback collection. Then we'll consider the deluxe hardcover edition. And finally, we'll consider the absolute edition. Single issue. Watchmen originally debuted from DC Comics in 1986 and ran until 1987. It was released in 12 issues or floppies, but even upon its original release, it had a few enhancements from the typical comic books of its era. Now this issue on the left isn't an original release, it's a recent Dollar Comics reprint, but the one on the right is. While not in the prestige format like The Dark Knight, by examining an original issue of Watchmen, you can tell it was treated as special by the publisher. It was released in the standard modern comic book scale, but the trade dress was uniquely on edge down the spine, and each front cover features an image that can serve as the first panel of that issue. The back cover features a design that evolves as the series moves forward, serving as a double countdown with both the blood and the clock. The cover paper is a thicker stock with a slight gloss finish. There are no ads in this comic book, and the legalese is printed on the inside front cover, while the credits don't appear until the inside back cover. There's prose content at the end of each issue, which helps flesh out the distinct world of the text, and the interior paper is a rough, pulpy matte that holds the garish colors of the inks very well. So what do I like here? Well, the original presentation of the material is certainly charming. The single issues hold the most nostalgia to the original readers of the series. But they are a little bit rare, and consequently they can be valuable and hard to get, especially in a complete set. Trade Paperback. The trade paperback collects all 12 of the single issues into one volume. It has been in perpetual print since 1987 for a few reasons. One of these is so DC can legally retain rights to the story, and the other is because it sells. A lot. As in, millions of copies sold. Most versions of the trade that you get today feature the famous smiley face cover, but the first release actually featured this piece of art, the breaking window, which is sequenced before the image on the cover of issue 1. Mine happens to be the 8th printing and was probably purchased around 1998. There's no introduction or front matter in this edition. It's in the same standard scale or size as the single issue. It features simple end papers that spell out Watchmen in black and white, and the soft cover is a thicker cardstock. It has a glued, so-called perfect binding. This can cause issues with modern comics that often feature 2-page splashes due to tightness and gutter loss. But because Watchmen adheres to a classic grid panel format, it isn't really an issue here. I'll illustrate this by showing you the Ozymandias attack from issue 5, as it's the only place where the image is split by the spine. As you can see, with a little bit of force applied, you can make out the white gutter on the inside of both panels, so we're good here. The paper quality is thinner and smoother than in the single issues. I've seen some people describe it as newsprint, but it feels a step up from that to me. The colors in the trade are slightly lighter and less vibrant than they were in the original issues, as you can see in this example from Chapter 6. All the original front and back cover images, as well as the prose material, are collected here, though the trade dressing on the covers of each issue has been altered to reflect a chapter number. So how's the trade paperback an upgrade? Well, it collects the entire story. It's more convenient because readers don't have to hunt out the 12 issues to build a full set, but the colors may be more muted, and the paper quality is a slight step down. The Deluxe Edition. DC does release hardcover editions in the standard size that would match the floppy issue in the trade, but they also have something called a Deluxe Edition. This is a larger scale format than the standard size. It's about 2.5 centimeters taller and 1.5 centimeters wider, and it's meant to highlight the artwork. This is the same scale as an omnibus edition. It's actually my preferred reading format for stories that I plan to revisit frequently. DC Deluxe Editions usually have a dust jacket. This one was released in 2013 and features the artwork from the British Convention booklet on the dust jacket. On the back is the zoomed-in smiley face in blood, along with some praise. We've got the title and creators on the spine. Underneath that, we have a hardcover that features art similar to the first issue on the front. The end papers are in a striking, heavy yellow stock, and it features a new introduction by Dave Gibbons, written in 2013. This appears to have a hybrid binding, but I can't actually see any evidence of the stitching. So I'm going to guess that we're actually looking at a glued binding here. The binding is tight like the trade paperback, and as we can see from our sample from Chapter 5, it results in the same degree of gutter loss. The paper is a slightly thicker and smoother version of what was in the trade paperback. It has a slight gloss, but it still doesn't come close to the high gloss stock that causes reflection issues in high light. This version features the digitally enhanced or corrected colors, which were originally prepared for the 2005 Absolute Edition, which we'll look at next. If we check out the old trade paperback, we can see that in the central panel, Rorschach's bruise is made up of 3 color blotches, yellow, green, and gray. In the deluxe edition, with the updated colors, the bruise is colored in a more complex gradient that moves from purple to green. A quick check for the enhanced colors can be done by flipping to the final panel of the final issue. Look at Rorschach's journal. If the word journal is in brown and matches the rest of the journal, you're looking at the original colors. If the word journal is in yellow, you're looking at the enhanced colors. Like how the Star Wars Special Edition changes came to be the only version moving forward, basically every color version of Watchmen since 2005 will employ these corrected colors, and the original unaltered coloring is becoming harder to find. You'd need to source out the original single issues or early collections to find the original coloring. The back matter or bonus in the deluxe edition is plentiful. We get a lot from artist Dave Gibbons' files here. It's full of concept sketches, process, and development material. There's 32 pages of it in total. The process stuff, where he's proposing the 9-panel grid and the layout of the panels on Moloch's house, are pretty impressive in suggesting just how much effort went into the structure of this story. Perhaps it's just my copy, but I did notice some printing issues here. Occasionally, there's a very fine line that cuts across the page horizontally, as you can see here and here. There are a few other minor issues in the quality of the printing in this deluxe edition, but for the most part they don't distract from the reading experience. So how is the deluxe edition an upgrade from the trade paperback? It also collects the entire story, but is even more durable due to the hardcover treatment and better quality paper and binding. The larger scale allows for better appreciation of the art. It features the enhanced or corrected colors and a new introduction by Dave Gibbons along with 32 pages of bonus material. But there are some printing issues, at least in my copy. The Absolute Edition. DC's premium treatment for its most marquee stories are called Absolute Editions. This is a larger scale format than the standard or even the deluxe edition. It's 6 centimeters longer and 3.5 centimeters wider than a standard comic book, and is meant to be at home on a shelf with other fine or library editions. They usually come in a slipcase, and the book itself typically has a dust jacket. This slipcase is black with the Doomsday Clock on the front and back. The clock, title, creators, and publisher are down the spine. It features the zoomed-in smiley face and blood drip image on the front of the dust jacket, and a red Absolute on the back. Underneath that, we have a vinyl hardcover that features the Doomsday Clock at 5 minutes to midnight on both the front and back. The end papers are thick and feature the same big bold lettering from the trade paperback, except in the yellow and black coloring. There is no introduction here. This version features a Smithsonian binding. If we look at the same Ozymandias attack page for reference, you'll note that the book stays open on its own and allows for good visibility at the gutter. The paper here is very thick and smooth, but does not have the slight gloss of the deluxe edition. It almost feels like Mayfair cover paper to me, and is clearly of the highest quality. Again, it features the digitally corrected color that we saw in the deluxe edition, but the color presents differently here. I think this is due to the improved paper quality, but let me see if I can show you an example. I'm not sure it's coming across on camera, but in person this Mars scene has richer color in the Absolute Edition. Maybe it's most apparent on the sky blue of this Antarctic approach. The deluxe version has a brown splotch in the middle of its sapphire blue sky, while the blue is a more mature indigo in the Absolute version. The back matter or bonus material is completely different from what we saw in the Deluxe Edition, and comes from the rare Graffiti Designs release back in 1988. It features a look back at the work, written a year after the series finished, by Alan Moore. Then it presents some of the early artwork and character designs, including Moore's notes on the original Charleston Comics characters he intended to use, along with his later modifications when they elected to shift them to all new characters. There's also sample art and an excerpt from the original script, along with Dave Gibbons' highlights and his thumbnail layouts. We see his quick sketches for the promotional artwork and the finished art for the role-playing modules and a few other pieces of interesting art. Then we have a look back at the series, written by Dave Gibbons, also from 1988. There are 40 pages of extra material here, and none of it overlaps with what was included in the Deluxe Edition, perhaps to encourage hardcore fans to buy both? There's a red ribbon bookmark and the smiley face on one side of the slipcase and front cover in some early versions, but apparently not on the later editions. So how is the Absolute Edition an upgrade from the Deluxe Edition? It also collects the entire story, but in an even larger format. It has a better quality cover and a much better quality sewn binding. It features thicker matte paper and boasts precise printing quality throughout. Like the Deluxe Edition, it features the enhanced or corrected colors, but they appear richer and more vibrant here. Finally, it features 40 pages of bonus material that has long been out of print. As we've seen, the original issues are good, but they're rare and can be expensive. The trade paperback is convenient and cheap, and it's probably how most first-time readers encounter this whole story. But some enthusiasts may want to upgrade beyond this to something a little more premium. The Deluxe Edition is the best bang for your buck to get that premium feel, but it still has some issues. The Absolute Edition is expensive, but it's amazing. However, it is big and clunky. In addition to the 4 formats that we looked at in this video, there are a handful of other odd formats available. There's a collected edition box set with 12 individual hardcover versions of the single issues. There's a Modern Classics edition, which is a new hardcover series with a slipcase and no dust jacket or extras. There's an annotated edition, which is black and white with wide pages that extend the side margins, so there's room for extra notes and information. There's also Watchmen Noir, which is another black and white presentation of the text. Ultimately, DC releases Watchmen in so many formats so that each individual can choose the one that works best for them. For me, the Absolute Edition is the ultimate upgrade in terms of the materials and the quality of the build. But I don't object to sitting down at a table or a desk to read it. You might have other preferences, but any way you slice it, you can't really lose. You're still experiencing Watchmen, one of the undisputed masterpieces of the genre, and that's a win. So thanks for watching, and remember, when it comes to the books you love, it's always worth upgrading your bookshelf.